Good evening. So good to have you here, both the individuals in the congregation and those of you at home that are watching this lesson. This evening's lesson is going to be 15 times to keep your mouth shut. That's a little bit of an unusual lesson. Some people have said, is that all? No, actually there's more, but we don't have time for all of them. But here are some of them that maybe you'll find helpful, encouraging, inspirational, or correctional. You say, well, why is that a good deal? Well, Proverbs 21 down in verse 23 says, whoso keeps his mouth and tongue keeps his soul from troubles. That's right. If I didn't say it, then I don't have to retract it. I don't have to explain it. I don't have to remember it. I don't have to apologize for it. There's a lot to be said about not having it said. So let's look at a handful of things here and why that would be important for us. We're familiar with the scripture in James chapter 3 and in verse 6. The tongue is a fire. And so we have that idea. All right, well, it's just, it ignites things. Look at this, the world of iniquity. Here's the whole universe of everything that could go wrong, can go wrong because of how people talk about it and think about it, express it to others, get themselves in trouble. The tongue is set among our members as that which defiles the entire body. So not just the words, not just the mind, but that kind of language gets the whole body doing the wrong thing and sets on fire the course of our life. So not just us, but everything with which we have to do, and is set on fire by hell. Satan said, that's just the way I wanted it. So it gives us an opportunity to rethink how we would like to speak about things. So here's a little more than a dozen. Here's some that are important to me. You'll have others. You'd say, hey, how about that for next time? Well, maybe so. And that is, shut up if you can't speak without yelling. Some individuals, I see nothing wrong with that. Well, my goodness. Ephesians 4:26 says, be angry and do not sin. And God gets angry, right? So the emotion is a God-designed emotion when we're fear, pain, or frustration. But we have choices in what we would like to do about that. And so Ephesians chapter 4 down in verse 31, he said, let all bitterness and wrath and anger, and here's the word I want us to think about, and clamor be put away from you along with all malice. Now we'll come back to this verse near the end of the lesson for a different point I want to make within it. But that idea of clamor might be interesting to you. Loeonidas lexicon says, it's the sound of a loud shout. And I just have the Greek word there at the end so you can see it's the same thing. Strong says to scream or shriek. I grew up in Cleveland and we had a family kind of diagonally a bit and across the street. And like every Saturday night, they're out there yelling at each other. And the police and whoa. Here's entertainment for the whole neighborhood, except it's 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning. And so what we're talking about here is if you can't speak without yelling, is going to be the manner of our speaking. Think about this, Acts 19:32. And some were shouting one thing and some another. That's that same word. When there's a riot going on in Ephesus. Acts 23:9, Paul is on trial for his life, and there occurred a great uproar. That is that same Greek word. And some of the scribes of the Pharisaic party stood up and began to argue heatedly. Well, everybody has heard it. People get mad and angry. Well, what happens is the thought process ends when the yelling begins. And so, Lord, maybe we want to set a attitude in our families and within ourselves that except for football games and such as that, we're just not going to yell. What about this? Shut up if you can't speak without saying something you wish you hadn't said. And so one is the manner. Well, this one here is the context. Proverbs 14:17. A quick-tempered man does foolish things. Women never do this. Guys get mad, they put their fist through a wall. Great. That was an expression of frustration. Now you get to fix the wall and explain why it has this lump there along this line. And so now we're talking about word choice. What words would I want to use? Even though inside we've all had, yeah, what I'm not telling is, and we talk to ourselves and that's not right, that's not good. It's really going to harm things in the long term. One person said, be careful with your words. Once they are said, they can only be forgiven and not forgotten. Probably you, I know me. I remember things said to me as a kid, on the school ground, in the neighborhood. You remember those, well, they may not have been right, or maybe they were, but they sting and they stick with us. So think about how we would choose to respond when we're angry, not only in the manner, but in word choice. Well, here's one that's related. We've heard this, it's kind of an idiom. Shut up, particularly if you may have to eat your words later. I don't know how many times, I was so sure this is the way, it doesn't matter if it's geography or directions or what happened or whatever. The reality is, memory is kind of plastic. We always think, man, it's like a block of concrete, but it gets affected by our experiences, the passage of time, the retelling of it, affects how we remember it. And so the idiom is the idea of having to eat your words, means to retract what you said because actually they weren't right, and in a humiliated way because they were right then and I was just so smart aleckly sure my way was right. Job 40 verse 5. Job said, I put my hand over my mouth. I spoke once, but I have no answer. Twice, and I will say no more. In other words, well, I've been shooting off my mouth, but God, I don't really think I'm right, and that's painful. Matthew 12 and down in verse 34. The mouth speaks out of what fills the heart. And so why did I say that? Well, guess what? The lips don't run independently. It's because that's what I was thinking when I was mad or agitated or arrogant or whatever it is. And we get to think about, I could say it that way, but like one person said, keep your words sweet. You may have to eat them afterward. And that goes well with Colossians chapter 4 and verse 6. That is, let your speech be always with grace. Say it maybe even a little more gently than the situation deserves. A saying we're familiar with, a closed mouth gathers no foot. So I didn't say it, then I don't have to be in this awkward position along that line. Think about this. Shut up if what you're about to say is not true. Well, what's that little graphic show? That liar, liar, pants on fire kind of thing. Well, Ephesians 4:25 says, laying aside falsehood. Just like if we was out working on the car, in the garden, or our clothes are dirty, and time to come to church, what would you do? You lay those aside, clean up, and come. Well, think about it in our language. Sometimes people, I've talked to some in years gone by, that, man, putting deception in there was just like blinking to them. I mean, it just totally amazed me. Different time, different place. And you say, it wasn't a lie when I said. Well, a lie is defined as a false statement made with deliberate intent to deceive. For instance, the time right now is 5:35. Do you know that? No, I'm not looking at the clock. It's 5:32. Did I lie? No, that's kind of what I thought. It's just I said the best I could. And so in Ephesians 4:15, speaking the truth in love. Well, I don't want to hurt him. Say the truth, but say it in a kind way. Think about this, Revelation 21:8. For all immoral persons, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liars, their part will be in the lake that burns with fire and brimstone. And so he said, Lord, our whole life is directed to go home, to go to heaven. So we get to review our words. And how am I doing in that? And here's, Dr. Phil, and we have a number of ways to express it, but Phil is, of course, saying, I don't care how flat you make a pancake, it's got two sides, right? And that's always true. And so Point number 5 is shut up until you hear both sides of the story. Because always the first person to tell you, they can be almost all true or hardly any at all. But when you talk to the other person, you get, wait a minute, there's a lot more to this picture. Whether kids or spouses, they'll tell their side of the story. And I've had it both ways. If a kid says, blah, 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 okay, I'm going to take the next one to the woodshed, that kind of saying. You find out, wait a minute, what they didn't tell you was, or over and over again, I've had responses, boy, you cannot believe what Dolores or Reginald did. You talk to one person, oh my goodness, we just better get a rope, tie that person up. The other person said, oh yeah? Well, let me tell you what happened just before that. You go, oh, so hear both sides of the story. Proverbs 18:17. The first to plead his cause seems right until another comes and examines him. So when you get the second part, boy, now you got both sides and you can get a sense of, all right, here's the right way to look on that. How about this? Number 6. Also, shut up if you need more evidence. Let's say both sides say, and there's still some areas that you need to investigate. Deuteronomy 17:6, here in a capital offense. On the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses, he who is to die shall be put to death. He shall not be put to death on the evidence of one witness. Just one against one, too much room for error. A similar kind of comment, 1 Timothy 5:19. Do not receive an accusation against an elder, except on the basis of 2 or 3 witnesses. So it isn't, well, I just think he is. The other guy's, well, I'm certainly not. And so what is the evidence? And number 7, shut up and don't jump to conclusions before getting the whole story. Maybe it's just you and another person talking. Here's a graphic, here's a guy and a woman, and they both got their hands in the air like, what? And well, what I'm saying is, and I don't know about you, some people are great. They hardly ever interrupt, and you tell your whole story, and other people, you can hardly get through a couple sentences, and they're jumping in. Proverbs 18, verse 13. The New Living Translation translates, I like this one because it's cute. Spouting off before listening to the facts is both shameful and foolish. And so probably spouting is not a Hebrew word there, but you get the sense of it because that kind of puts it in the language. People, yeah, well, wait a minute, you don't have to tell me. I'm going to tell you. I know what you're going to say. And the person, yeah, smarty, what was I going to say? Well, you're going to say, blah, 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 blah. And they say, oh, no, Mr. Einstein, I wasn't going to say that. And so that is just a big furball battleground. So don't jump to conclusions before getting the whole story. And then think about areas in our personal lives. Shut up when tempted to tell crude jokes. Here's a picture of an old donkey, hee-haw and whatnot. Ephesians 5 and verse 4. Nor should there be, New International Version reading, obscenity, foolish talk, or coarse jesting, which are out of place. Jokes are great. I tell all the time. Every day I'm teasing and playing, situation providing. And so that's great. Good-natured and good humor. We're talking about the kind that isn't good. Now you might be interested here. The NIV gives this first word, obscenity. And he said that is just shameful speech. It's not a joke. It's just rotten. It shouldn't be said. And then there's foolish talk. I thought you'd be especially interested in this. The Greek word is moral logia. Logia or logos, here's the word or the speech, the context of what's being said. Well, look at that first part. Moral, what's that sound like? Well, it sounds just like we would use it. Dull, stupid, or moron. What he's saying is, don't talk like a moron. You're supposed to be a conscientious Christian, and just because somebody else is, you don't have to drop down to their level. And then the coarse jesting. This idea, like you, means good. And the next word, tropelia, means witty. It's good and it's witty, but there's a problem with it. Sometimes bad jokes, dirty jokes, improper are really funny, but they're still wrong. And so I've had years when I was in the industries and whatnot, a guy said, hey, I got a joke for you. And I wanted to live as a Christian, everybody around me, all kind of language. And I just knew this guy. And I said, let me ask you a question. Is this a joke you would tell your mother? And he goes, I said, you got to think about it that long? I don't want to hear it. And so you have that opportunity to say, thanks, but that's not the kind of joke I want to hear. Number 9, shut up when you need to keep appropriate confidences. Now here I got a little smiley with a zipper lip, and that's what we need to do, particularly in certain situations. Haven't you had somebody come up to you and say, I probably shouldn't say this, but what the answer to that is, well, if you probably shouldn't, then don't say it, because your conscience is already talking to you. And so in the book of Proverbs 25 and verse 9, he says, argue your case with your neighbor, and do not reveal the secret of another. So as you're talking to the person, you got some kind of conflict, well, maybe somebody else gave you some special information, and they said, and it's not, terrorist or anything, but it's sensitive, it's touchy, it's confidential, and they said, look, I'd like you to keep confidence in this, and that piece of information would help your argument, but what? You can't use it. And so he said, don't do that. Proverbs 25:10, lest he hear it reproach you, you become known as a person that is unreliable. And so I thought, fair enough, good point. Proverbs 11 and verse 13. He who goes about as a talebearer reveals secrets, and he who is trustworthy conceals a matter. My point here is that sometimes, and I've had people on a couple of occasions say, tell me something really horrendous, and by the way, this is confidential. One time I've had to say, hold it, you cannot put handcuffs on me now. I tell you, we're going to solve this, and you are going to solve it, and you've got 2 weeks to solve it. I'll not get into what it was and it wasn't in this congregation. And so sometimes people tell you this monumental stuff, and then, wow, you're an accessory to it. You might be interested. This is remote, but if you willingly conceal the commission of a felony, you know they're going to do it, and it's a federal offense. Just you knowing it and doing nothing about it can be deemed as a form of obstruction in justice, and if you're convicted, you face up to $250,000 in fines and imprisonment. So there's a time, somebody said, I'm going to blow up the courthouse, I'm going to blow it up. He said, well, Harold, look, just wait till I go on vacation. You can't do that. That's a federal offense. If somebody says, well, I just feel like I feel so bad, I feel like committing suicide, well, that's not a federal offense. But that's a big deal. And then you have a judgment if you're trying to save the person's life of what we want to do about it. Generally, you say, there's a series of steps you can take. Look, Reginald, what I want you to tell me, do you know how you're going to do it? Do you have the weapon there or whatever it is? Yes. If it's a gun, is it loaded? Yes. Where is the gun? Well, it's in my hand. Well, you can tell. This guy's serious. All right, I want you to promise me one thing. You won't use it till I get there. And hopefully not on me after I do. You're trying to help the person and slow down the situation. How about this one? Number 10. Shut up when the issues are none of your business. Sometimes people are so interested. Yeah, well, I'd like to know about this kind of thing. And so that famous Proverbs 26:17. Like one who takes up a dog by the ears is he who passes by and meddles in strife not belonging to him. So I got a beautiful German Shepherd there. So I walk up, hey, Bowser, how you doing? I grab his ears and I start picking him up. Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to have teeth marks all up and down my arm. He said, you're not doing that to me. When I was a boy, I remember my mom telling me a story, and you had your own story. Here's a man, he is accosting a woman, they're fighting, and I don't know what they're doing. And this guy, he's a good Samaritan, he jumps in, he wants to help the woman. What happens? They both jumped on the good Samaritan. And so, hey, they're used to fighting. You're messing up Saturday Night Live. Proverbs 14, verse 10. The heart knows its own bitterness. People have their own reasons for it. Maybe the woman, here's really remote. He's beating her down, and you go up and and knock him out and find out she's the assassin. So it's good, we don't come across that kind of thing, but be wise. Proverbs 14:33. Wisdom lies in the heart of the one who has understanding. So rather than just jump right in, can I help out? What's going on here? Or maybe 911, whatever the situation. Or people are just arguing. They're not hitting each other. Arguing on a street corner. Is it my business to go up and solve their argument? The answer is no. They're in an argument. Say, about that, and keep on going. Number 11, shut up if your words will discourage believers. Matthew 18 and in verse 6. Whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for him that a heavy millstone be hung around his neck and that he be drowned in the depths of the sea. And so, how we interact is our words, is our attitude causing them just to give up and go into sin. Numbers 32 and verse 9, the 10 spies discouraged the sons of Israel from going into the land. Oh, we can't do it. They were wrong. But because of that, they damaged a whole generation. Then number 12, shut up if your words will damage your reputation. Colossians 3 and verse 8. Now you also put them aside, anger and wrath and malice and slander. You'd be interested. That word is blasphemy. Blasphemia just means to speak evil. Well, I don't want to have Mike Walker. I want to hang out with Mike Walker. That guy over there. And wait a minute. You converted him. And who am I to jump in and so Psalm 15 verse 1. Lord, who may dwell on thy holy hill? He who walks with integrity. Verse 3, he who does not slander with his tongue, nor does evil to his neighbor, nor takes up a reproach against his friend. So think about when somebody says, well, what do you think about him? Well, he has a few challenges. And depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to run the person down, I'll give you a list. If you're trying to build the person up, I had an individual a long time ago. I was in Sumner at that time, and here was a younger Christian, and they had been on drugs, and they were just cleaning up. And they told me about it. I've been clean. In fact, I met a guy yesterday. I was going into the library. As I walked in, here's some young men in mid-20s, just prior to 30, and they're just kind of sitting around, maybe in between the doors, getting warm or whatever. And there was this bicycle I saw outside. Oh, isn't that funny? Here's a big sprocket, which was unusual for that kind of bike. I walked inside, and the guy said, "You like my bike?" And I looked at him, and I said, "Chris, I know him. He had been a heroin addict for 12 years. I said, "Chris, you're looking good." He said, "Thank you. I've been clean for 2 weeks." I said, "Good for you, my man. Good for you." You just want to pull for him that way. So in Sumner, I had somebody come up to me one time and say, I'm looking at Bubba over there, and something doesn't look right. Well, Bubba had just told me that he's working on getting himself cleaned up, and here's the start he had made. And so I don't want to reveal Bubba's information to this individual who's really not part of the issue. And I said, well, what's your concern? He said, well, I'm concerned he might be using drugs. I said, really? Why don't you ask him? I'm not revealing anything. If Bubba wants to say, if Bubba doesn't want to say, I'm not trying to damage that reputation while somebody's just trying to get their life together. Here's our last couple, and then we'll be done. Shut up if you're tempted to swear. I don't mean take an oath before a judge, but using profanity. And I like this little graphic. No foul language, please. Rooster's got his beak tied shut, and so many little exclamation points and hashtags and things such as that. But think about that. In Ephesians 4:29, it says, let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, but only as such as is good for edification. Say, man, I am so angry, I'm thinking. Clamp them lips shut. You might be interested. The Greek for that little phrase, that unwholesome word, is sapros logos. So you're familiar with that word logos. It just means word or speech. And sapros, by the various Greek dictionaries, Strong says it means rotten. Low-Ignitus says harmful and corrupting. Thayer says putrid. Kittle says rotting. That the speech that we use is just rotten and shouldn't be used. Yeah, but back before Victorian age, they used to use that. Yeah, that's not my problem. We don't live there. We live here. And let's use the right kind of speech and encourage others to do it around us. Next to the last, shut up if your words destroy a friendship unnecessarily. Now, sometimes there might be a time where, boy, that person is making choices and you can't sacrifice your family on the altar of their choice. And so sometimes friendships get shattered, but sometimes they don't have to. Proverbs 17:17, a friend loves at all times. And 17:7, he who covers over an offense promotes love. But whoever repeats the matter separates friends. Let's go back. I don't know how long. I'll say Dennis and I have been friends for 45 years. Over the years, sometimes we get sideways with each other. Well, let's go back and review each one of those things. I don't remember what they were. But the friendship meant more than whatever the irritation was. And we both kind of get ourselves kind of worked out and then back together. Because the friendship meant much more than the minor issue that there was. And then this should be 15. Shut up when you're just talking too much. Think about different passages. Ecclesiastes 3:7. There's a time to be silent and a time to speak. And some people don't have that figured out. Proverbs 10:19. In many words, there's no lack of transgression. The longer I talk, the more opportunity for me to say something wrong. In Proverbs 17, verse 27 and following, he who restrains his words has knowledge. Amos 2:20. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silent before him. God makes his decision, and I'm not going to be there arguing. God, it's just okay, however you want it to be. And here's our last scripture, and we close. Psalm 141 and verse 3. David says, set a guard over my mouth, O Lord. Lord, would you get an angel with one specific assignment and then get right here by my lips so that every time and set a watch over the door of my lips. He prays to God. God, I want to do better. And we do too. And that's why it's good just to share some of these things. And so if you say, I'm a believer and I'm here tonight and